Good to hear.
Sorry, Mr. Borsak, you were asking me about foreign surcharge?
Yeah, can you give us an update on the review? I think you announced that there was going to be a review in relation to the guidelines.
So I did say that I would be taking a closer look in relation to those guidelines, and that work is certainly, yes, underway.
So when can we expect an outcome?
Look, I don't have a specific date in relation to that. I'd say that this was in, I think you're referring to a comment I made in a radio interview in relation to that.
I'm leading up to talking about that, the Ben Fordham show.
Yeah.
Some time ago.
That's right. We're taking a closer look at those guidelines. I think it's worthwhile noting, Mr. Borsak, that the point I made in that radio interview and the point that the position of the government is that the tax system in New South Wales treats visa holders and Australian citizens differently, and in relation to foreign tax surcharge, if you either don't reside, if you're not an Australian citizen and you don't reside in your principal place of residence for more than 200 days, then you are required to pay the foreign tax surcharge.
Minister, the people concerned have had letters and communication with your office, and also with I think the Commissioner has written to them as well, basically saying that the land tax will apply. I'm not sure exactly which year. I think they're talking 2020. Is there any room to manoeuvre in relation to that outstanding amount?
Look, I'd be really hesitant to canvass the circumstances of an individual in this particular hearing. I'd be happy to talk to you about it if you've been provided with those details. But I would say that in relation to the rule is that in order to access the exemption from foreign tax surcharge, a permanent resident who purchases a property must meet the 200-day threshold. And so that means that they must be in the country for 200 consecutive days. I'd also make the point, Mr. Borsak, that where a permanent resident and an Australian citizen jointly own a property and the foreign tax surcharge is levied on that particular property, it only applies to the proportion owned by the permanent resident who has not met the 200-day rule.
So, for example, if it was jointly held, tenants in common, for example, 50-50, it would only be assessed on half.
It would be assessed on the proportion. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, in that circumstance.
Yeah.
Okay. Minister, could you just maybe take on notice how much money has been raised under this scheme in the last financial years?
I can tell you...
Sorry, last 5 financial years?
I can tell you that since 2019-20, the foreign surcharge on land tax and stamp duty has raised more than $2.6 billion.
Since 2020,
Since 2019-2020.
1.26 billion.
Sorry, $2.6 billion.
2.6 billion.
Yeah, it's
okay, that's reflective of the accelerating property market, I'll bet. 2.6 billion.
I'd make this point, Mr. Borsak, that our property taxes in New South Wales only do not apply to an Australian citizen's principal place of residence. So we don't levy taxes on the family home. And if a permanent resident lives in Australia for more than 200 days and is building their life here, perhaps sending their children to local schools, then they are not required to pay this foreign tax surcharge. But if they don't live here for the more than 200 days, if they're not an Australian citizen, then they are levied this surcharge.
Well, of the 2.6 billion, and again, you probably don't have these figures to hand, how many would be for permanent foreign residents, and how many would be for the people that are caught in these circumstances?
Yeah, look, I'd be happy to take that on notice. My understanding is that we don't have that breakdown, but I'd be happy to come back to you on notice in relation to that.
Are you likely to change and create an exemption for the circumstances around which those people were talking to you or talking to the Commissioner about an exemption?
Look, I would make this point, Mr. Borsak, and I think this is the point I made on radio, which is it's my responsibility as Minister to make sure that we have appropriate hardship guidelines that are in place. We're taking a closer look at that at the moment. You'll note that we've got a new Chief Commissioner, and so that work is underway. But ultimately, this is a key source of revenue that was established by the previous government and that is now providing us with important funds as we try and rebuild essential services, essential public services across New South Wales.